Pertin. The New Galactic Order. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Korthani hegemony, and the galaxy looked nothing like it had before the New Geneva massacre. Ambassador Zara Chen walked through the gleaming corridors of Unity Station, humanity's massive diplomatic complex orbiting the former Korthani homeworld. The station served as the headquarters for the Terran Protectorate Council, the governing body that now maintained peace across 40% of the local galactic arm. Through the observation deck's massive windows, she could see the transformation below. Korthak Prime had been rebuilt as a model of interspecies cooperation. The former capital of conquest was now a center of learning and trade, where former enemies worked side by side with human engineers and diplomats. Korthani youth attended integrated schools where they learned not just their own history, but the broader history of galactic civilization, including the harsh lessons about what happened when peaceful species were pushed too far. "Ambassador Chen," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Fleet Admiral Harrison, now bearing the additional title of Protectorate Defense Coordinator. The years had been kind to Sarah. The constant stress of war had been replaced by the satisfaction of building something lasting. "Admiral, I heard you wanted to discuss the Vegan situation before the council meeting." Harrison nodded grimly. "The mineral lords are getting restless again. Our intelligence suggests they're testing our resolve by probing the outer colonies of the Zephyrian Collective. They seem to think 5 years is long enough for human vigilance to relax." Zara sighed. It was an old pattern by now. Every few years, some ambitious species would decide that humanity's reputation for devastating retaliation was exaggerated. They would test boundaries, probe defenses, make threatening moves against human allies. They always learned the same lesson, but the galaxy seemed determined to learn it repeatedly. "What's your recommendation?" "Show of force. Third Fleet is conducting exercises in the Proxima sector. We redirect them to Vegan space for some navigation training near their mining worlds. Let them see what a fully armed human battle group looks like up close." As they talked, they were joined by Dr. Elena Vasquez, now Director of Colonial Development for the Protectorate. The former medical officer of New Geneva had become one of humanity's most effective administrators, her personal experience with Korthani brutality lending weight to her words when dealing with potentially hostile species. "Elena," Zara said warmly, "how are the integration programs proceeding?" "Better than expected, actually. The Korthani youth are adapting remarkably well to the new educational systems. It turns out that when you remove the cultural emphasis on conquest and replace it with cooperative achievement, they're actually quite pleasant to work with." She paused, looking out at the bustling planet below. It's the older generation that's still struggling with the transition. The transformation of Korthani society had been one of humanity's greatest achievements in the post-war period. Rather than simply occupying the defeated empire, humans had implemented a comprehensive re-education and reconstruction program. Korthani military traditions had been redirected toward peaceful competition. Their natural predatory instincts were channeled into scientific research and exploration rather than conquest. "Any security concerns?" Harrison asked. "Nothing serious. There's still a resistance movement in the outer worlds, but they're more focused on graffiti and symbolic protests than actual violence. Hard to maintain a violent insurgency when the occupying force is building hospitals and schools faster than you can tear them down." It was true. Humanity's approach to conquered territories was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Rather than strip mining resources or enslaving populations, humans poured resources into infrastructure, education, and economic development. Former enemy worlds often became more prosperous under human protection than they had been as independent powers. The trio made their way to the council chamber, where representatives from 37 species were gathering for the monthly Protectorate Council meeting. The chamber was a marvel of diplomatic architecture designed to accommodate the wildly different physiological requirements of the various species. Aquatic delegates floated in specialized tanks, silicon-based beings rested on heated platforms, and gaseous entities swirled in contained atmospheric chambers. At the head of the chamber sat the human coordinator's podium, a position that rotated among senior human diplomats every 2 years. This month, it was occupied by Coordinator Williams, a veteran of the pre-war diplomatic corps who had witnessed humanity's transformation from peaceful merchants to galactic guardians. "The first item on our agenda," Williams announced, his voice translated simultaneously into dozens of languages, "is the request from the Centauri Trade Federation for protection status." A holographic display showed the Centauri system, located on the outer edge of human space. The Trade Federation was a collection of peaceful merchant species who had watched humanity's rise with growing interest. Their request was simple. They wanted to join the Protectorate in exchange for protection from the various pirates and raiders that plagued the outer systems. The Federation offers industrial capacity, rare mineral deposits, and strategic positioning in exchange for protection guarantees, Williams continued. "Admiral Harrison?" Harrison stood, her uniform bearing the insignia of a dozen different human military branches. "The Third Fleet can extend patrol routes to include Centauri space within 30 days. We estimate a force commitment of 15 vessels on rotating assignment should be sufficient to deter any aggressive action in the region." Delegate Zorth of the Zephyrian Collective raised a crystalline appendage. "If I may, Coordinator, the Collective has been monitoring communication traffic from the Centauri region. There are indications that the Shadow Cartel has been planning operations there." The Shadow Cartel. Zara felt her jaw tighten at the mention of the name. They were one of the few remaining threats in local space, a loose confederation of pirate fleets, rogue military units, and criminal organizations who had banded together in response to humanity's expansion. Unlike the traditional empires that humanity had faced, the cartel had no fixed territories or populations to protect. They struck from hidden bases and disappeared into the void. "What kind of operations?" Harrison asked. "Slave raids, primarily. The Centauri species are highly valued in illegal markets due to their psychological susceptibility to certain forms of conditioning." A cold silence fell over the chamber. Slavery had been one of humanity's first targets when they began expanding their influence after the Korthani War. Any species or organization involved in the slave trade found themselves facing the full might of human military power. Several criminal empires had been completely eradicated for trafficking in sentient beings. "Motion to fast-track Centauri's protection request," said Delegate Vraxis of the reformed Korthani government. "If the Shadow Cartel is planning operations against peaceful traders, they need protection immediately." The motion passed unanimously. It was telling that even former enemies now understood that challenging human principles about slavery and civilian protection was a form of suicide. As the meeting continued, Zara reflected on how much had changed since that terrible day on New Geneva. Humanity had not sought to become the galaxy's police force, but the role had been thrust upon them by the actions of those who mistook mercy for weakness. The result was a galactic civilization that was more peaceful and prosperous than it had ever been. The afternoon session was interrupted by an urgent communication from the outer monitoring stations. Commander Torres, now head of Protectorate Intelligence, appeared on the main screen looking grim. "Coordinators, we have a developing situation. Shadow Cartel forces have been detected massing in the Void Belt, approximately 200 light-years from Centauri space. Fleet strength estimated at over 400 vessels." A murmur ran through the chamber. 400 ships represented a significant threat, even by human standards. The Shadow Cartel had apparently decided to make a statement about humanity's growing influence. Harrison's expression hardened. "Current disposition of our forces? Third Fleet is en route to Centauri as planned. 7th Fleet is conducting anti-piracy operations in the Perseus sector. Home Fleet is at standard readiness levels. Not enough, Harrison said grimly. If the cartel is committing that many ships, they're planning more than just a raid. They want a direct confrontation with human forces. Coordinator Williams looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. The question before us is simple. The Shadow Cartel is challenging not just human authority, but the entire protectorate system. How do we respond? The answer came from an unexpected source. High Counselor Vashatar, the former Korthani leader, who now served as a junior delegate to the Protectorate Council, rose from his position. The alien who had once ordered the massacre of human colonies now spoke in defense of human protection. Coordinators, with respect, there is only one response that the galaxy will understand. The Shadow Cartel must be eliminated completely. Not defeated, not scattered, eliminated. The galaxy has enjoyed 5 years of unprecedented peace because every potential aggressor knows exactly what happens when humanity's patience is exhausted. Vashatar's scaled form straightened with something that might have been pride. My species learned this lesson at great cost. We were once the terror of this region. We conquered, enslaved, and destroyed because we believed might made right. Humanity taught us that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to build and the will to protect what you have built. He gestured to the diverse collection of species in the chamber. Look around you. 47 species working together, trading freely, exploring the cosmos without fear of conquest or enslavement. This exists because humanity demonstrated that aggression against peaceful civilizations carries an unacceptable price. The old Korthani's voice grew stronger. If we allow the Shadow Cartel to challenge this system, others will follow. The peace we have built will crumble, and we will return to the dark ages of constant warfare and suffering. Delegate Zorth of the Zephyrians stood in agreement. The collective supports total elimination of the Shadow Cartel. We have ships and crews ready to assist human forces. One by one, the other delegates voiced their agreement. The mineral lords of Vega, despite their recent testing of boundaries, offered their massive mining ships for conversion to support vessels. The Ethereal Consortium pledged their advanced sensor networks for intelligence gathering. Even species that had never before committed to military action volunteered resources for the campaign. Admiral Harrison watched the unprecedented show of unity with something approaching awe. With your support, we can mobilize the largest fleet in galactic history. Estimated time to operational readiness? 60 days for full mobilization, reported Commander Torres. But we can have advance elements in position within 2 weeks. Coordinator Williams nodded slowly. Then it's decided. The Shadow Cartel has chosen to challenge not just humanity, but the entire civilized galaxy. We will respond accordingly. As the meeting concluded, Zara found herself standing once again at the observation deck, looking down at the transformed world below. In the distance, she could see construction ships beginning to arrive, the first elements of the massive fleet that would soon gather to face the Shadow Cartel. Dr. Vasquez joined her at the window. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "I was thinking about that little boy on New Geneva, the one who lost his mother in the massacre. He must be 17 now." "He is. Marcus Chen Rodriguez. He's actually one of my students in the accelerated engineering program. Brilliant kid. Wants to design starships." Zara smiled sadly. "I wonder what he would think about all this. About what we've become." "I know exactly what he thinks," Elena said quietly. "I asked him once. He said that his mother died so that other children wouldn't have to. He said that humanity didn't choose to become the galaxy's protector. The galaxy chose humanity." In the distance, the first ships of the gathering fleet began to appear as points of light against the stars. Somewhere out there, the Shadow Cartel was preparing for what they probably thought would be a glorious battle against human forces. They would soon learn what every other aggressive power in the galaxy had learned over the past 5 years. Humanity had been given 10 years of peace by the galaxy, and they had used that time to build something beautiful, a network of peaceful trade, cultural exchange, and cooperative exploration. When that gift was repaid with death and destruction, humanity had responded with devastating force. But they had also built something better from the ashes. Now that peace was threatened again, and the galaxy itself was rising to defend it. The age of human dominance was ending, replaced by something far more powerful, the age of human leadership in a truly united galactic civilization. The Shadow Cartel would soon discover that they were not just facing humanity anymore. They were facing the combined will of every species that had learned to prefer peace to conquest, cooperation to domination, and protection to predation. It would be their final lesson.